Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed at 1,000 subscribers. I'll be posting a special video. I grabbed his phone off the mattress before it could buzz again. My thumb missed the lock twice, like it wanted me to stop. The screen finally popped open and Kyle's name stared back. A heart sat beside it like it belonged there, and that felt wrong. I'm Emma, 32, and I wish I could say I froze. I didn't. I moved like my body already knew. I turned the brightness down and held my breath. His hand twitched toward me, then went still, and I kept going. The message preview was short and sharp. I miss your hands, that was it. No joke emoji, no follow-up to soften it. My stomach didn't drop yet, and that scared me more. You know that weird calm that shows up too early? Like your brain clocks out and lets your hands drive. That was me. I even thought, okay, at least it's a man. Then I hated myself for thinking that right on the spot. I tapped the thread and waited for the rest. More lines appeared, but the tone stayed the same. Pet names, a time, same place. My eyes moved fast and I felt my face go blank. He shifted beside me and exhaled through his nose. I slid the phone lower, closer to my chest. My heart kept a steady beat, like it didn't believe it. The calm started to crack and I felt the first sting. I scrolled up and hit the top of the chat. There wasn't one, it jumped back only a few days. That's when my brain finally caught up. Chats don't start like that unless something got cleaned. I backed out and looked at the contact itself. Kyle had a new photo and it was of them together. Not a group shot, just the two of them close. I stared at it longer than I meant to and my throat tightened. I did the thing I hate admitting. I checked the call history, like that makes it better. Late nights, missed calls, quick returns. My mouth went dry and I heard my own pulse. I opened the messages list and searched Kyle's name. One thread, that was too neat. I searched hands and got nothing else. It felt staged, like somebody left crumbs on purpose. My husband rolled over and his knee bumped mine. I flinched so hard I almost dropped the phone. He mumbled my name, not awake enough to mean it. I waited for him to open his eyes and he didn't. I should have put it down and walked away. Instead, I went to the settings, hunting like a thief. My finger hovered over recently deleted and trembled. I tapped it anyway and the list loaded too fast. There were dozens of deleted texts sitting there. Not weeks old, not months old, fresh. My chest went tight like a belt got pulled. I stared at the timestamps and felt something ugly wake up. I restored a few without thinking it through. The screen filled with lines I wasn't meant to see. Same spot, bring it, don't leave marks. I swallowed hard because my brain picked one meaning first. Then I saw a word that didn't fit that meaning. Paperwork right in the middle of it. I blinked and reread it like I misread my own life. My skin went cold because cheating doesn't need paperwork. I scrolled more and caught signature twice. Not a joke, not a nickname, the actual word. I stared at it until my eyes watered. My hands shook and I still didn't wake him. I wanted to scream at Kyle through the screen. I wanted to shake my husband until his teeth clicked. Instead, I held the phone and listened to his breathing. It sounded normal and that made me feel crazy. I tried to build excuses like bricks in a panic. Maybe Kyle needed help with some forms. Maybe don't leave marks meant don't leave fingerprints. That last thought landed and my stomach twisted again. I closed the thread and looked at the time. 2:07 a.m., the hour people use for secrets. The phone buzzed again, soft but urgent. Kyle's name flashed and my fingers almost answered. I didn't accept the call, I didn't decline it either. I let it ring out while I watched my husband's face. His eyes stayed shut but his jaw tightened once. That tiny movement told me he knew and I felt trapped. When the call stopped, a new text came in. Are you alone? That's all it asked. My mouth opened with no sound, like I forgot air. I stared at those three words and I couldn't look away. I slid out of bed without turning on anything. My feet hit the floor and I steadied myself on the wall. The phone felt hot in my palm, like it had a pulse. Behind me, my husband shifted again and I knew he was listening. I walked to the bathroom and shut the door softly. My reflection looked fine, which felt like a sick joke. I held the phone up and read the thread again. This time I noticed how careful every line was. No names in the body of the messages. No addresses, no details that could show a reason. Just instructions and timing like a little operation. My hands went numb because I knew that style from work emails. I typed a reply, then erased it. I typed another, then erased that too. My brain kept yelling, don't engage, don't feed it. My fingers hovered in Iwe like they belonged to someone reckless. I finally sent one word, why. It looked pathetic the second it left. The reply came back almost instantly, like Kyle waited. Ask him in the morning, and my blood ran colder. I stood there until my legs started to ache. I could hear my husband's breathing through the door. Steady again, too steady like he practiced. I realized I was the only one shaking, and that felt planned. I went back to the bedroom and set the phone down. I placed it exactly where I found it, like a ritual. Then I lay beside him and stared into the dark. My hands stayed open on the sheets, waiting for dawn to hit. I woke up before my alarm and acted like nothing happened. My hand slid across the bed, searching for warmth and answers. He was already dressed, moving too quietly for a weekday. He kissed my forehead and kept his eyes off mine. Why? I followed him into the kitchen and blocked the doorway. Did Kyle call you last night? My voice came out too steady. He didn't stop pouring coffee, like my words were background noise. Work stuff, he shrugged once and my jaw clenched hard. I pushed again because I'm stubborn when I'm scared. Work stuff at 2 in the morning, I tapped the counter. He lifted one shoulder and gave me a thin smile. The smile felt practiced and I hated noticing that. He grabbed his keys and headed for the door. Errands, he said, already halfway gone. I watched his hand hover near his pocket, then retreat. He wanted his device close and that told me plenty. I waited 5 minutes, then 10, then I cracked. I opened the shared location app with a shaking thumb. His dot moved fast, then slowed near Kyle's building. I stared at it and my chest went tight again. I didn't even change clothes, which was gross and real. I threw my hair into a knot and drove out. My brain kept trying to be reasonable, like that helps. I kept driving anyway because fear hates being ignored. I parked down the block and kept my head low. Kyle came outside first, scanning the street like a lookout. My spouse pulled up, then cut the engine fast. They didn't hug, which somehow made it worse. Kyle slid into the passenger seat like it was routine. No greeting, no small talk, just straight to business. They leaned in and spoke low, hands moving quick. I couldn't hear a word and I wanted to scream. The car rolled forward and I started my own engine. I kept 2 cars between us and prayed for red lights. At every turn I expected him to check the mirror. He never did, like he trusted the world to stay blind. They stopped at a bank drive-thru and didn't use it. Kyle hopped out instead, walking toward the side entrance. My spouse waited with both hands on the wheel. That split-second separation felt planned and I memorized it. Kyle came back carrying a thick envelope. He held it close like it mattered more than pride. He got inside again and tucked it under his leg. My stomach twisted because money changes people fast. They drove across town toward a row of small warehouses. Not big ones with signs, just plain doors and cameras. I slowed way down and let a truck pass me. My hands kept slipping on the wheel like I was sweating fear. They pulled into a lot behind the buildings and parked. Kyle got out first and checked his phone, head down. My spouse opened the trunk and lifted a flat box. It was the kind you carry carefully, and I wanted to know why. I stayed in my car and lowered my seat. I felt ridiculous, like a bargain detective in a bad movie. Then Kyle pointed toward a door and my spouse nodded once. They walked out of sight and I couldn't follow yet. I waited, counting seconds like they were oxygen. A side door opened and a stranger stepped out. Not Kyle, not my spouse, someone older, face unreadable. He looked around, then went back inside. Why bring a third person? My pulse kicked hard and I grabbed my own phone. I started recording through the windshield, hands trembling. The camera shook, which made me angry at myself. I steadied it because proof matters when you're about to be called crazy. Kyle returned first, alone, moving faster than before. He popped the trunk and swapped the envelope for the flat box. He shut the trunk like it was a secret pact. Then he wiped his palm on his jeans like he felt dirty. My spouse came back a moment later and froze. His head tilted, eyes scanning the parked cars. I sank lower and held my breath until it hurt. His stare lingered on my row, and I nearly panicked. He walked to the driver's side and spoke through the window. I couldn't hear it, but Kyle's face tightened. Kyle nodded like a kid caught doing something dumb. Then Kyle laughed once, too loud for comfort, like a cover. They drove out and I followed at a safer distance. My heart kept yelling at me to stop, then to go faster. I told myself I only needed one more clue. That lie got me through the next turn bare. Lie? They stopped at a grocery store and didn't buy groceries. Kyle stayed in the car while my spouse went inside. He came out with a single bag held tight at his side. One bag, one purpose, one more reason to keep watching. Back on the road, my spouse finally called me. The car speaker in my lap buzzed and I almost dropped it. I answered with my voice calm and my mind screaming. Hey, I swallowed hard and waited for the trap. You okay? His tone was casual, too casual. Fine, I forced a small laugh and it sounded fake. You sound weird, a pause stretched between us. I stared at his car ahead and felt hunted. Just tired, I said, gripping the steering wheel tighter. He hummed like he accepted it, but he didn't. Heading home soon, another pause, then a breath. Don't go anywhere today. He hung up and my skin went cold. I almost turned around right then, I won't lie. Then Kyle leaned toward him and my spouse nodded again. They took an exit toward an area I barely ever visited. My gut told me this was the real stop and I followed. I hit the brakes so hard my seatbelt snapped tight. Their car turned into a small parking lot and stopped. I rolled past like I belonged, eyes forward, face still. My heart hammered anyway because I had nowhere to hide. I parked 2 rows away and killed my engine. Kyle jumped out first and glanced around, quick and sharp. My spouse stayed inside, tapping his fingers on the wheel. That tapping made me feel like the clock started ticking. Kyle waved once and my spouse finally stepped out. He carried that flat box again, tucked against his ribs. They walked toward a storefront with a plain glass door. I watched the door swallow them and I hated my own patience. I got out and kept my steps casual like I was shopping. I held my phone low and pretended to scroll. My legs felt steady, which annoyed me because I was not steady. I reached the next storefront and stopped, too close to stop. Their voices leaked through the thin wall beside me. I leaned toward it and tried not to breathe loud. Kyle chuckled, then lowered his tone like a secret. I caught my own last name and my body went rigid. Just sign it like before. Kyle's words slid under the noise. My spouse made a sound like a sigh, not an answer. Kyle added, she won't notice for months. I pressed my palm to the wall because my knees went soft. For a second my brain tried the cheating story again. It wanted something simple, something petty, something I could yell about. Then Kyle said account and approval and my mouth went dry. Cheating does not need approval, so what did they need? I opened my recording app without looking at the screen. My finger hit start and the red dot blinked at me. I held the phone against my thigh, acting bored on purpose. Inside that room, their words turned into a transaction. You're sure it matches her signature? Kyle asked. My spouse made a small laugh that sounded forced. It's close enough, that reply punched air out of me. Close enough for what? Alone, a deed, a lie. A chair scraped, then paper shuffled fast. Kyle's voice turned bright like he was selling something. After this, we're clean. He tapped something hard. My spouse answered low, and you're done, like a threat. I wanted to storm in right then. I wanted to kick the door and watch their faces change. Instead, I stood there, smiling at a display I did not see. I kept smiling because panic makes you stupid. A door opened suddenly and I jerked my head away. A woman walked out with a clipboard and scanned the hallway. I pretended to answer a text, thumb moving like a robot. She looked right at me and kept looking. Can I help you? Her voice was polite and sharp. I held up my phone and pointed at the next door over. Just checking if this place is open. My voice sounded fake. She stared another beat, then nodded slowly, not convinced. She stepped back inside and I exhaled through clenched teeth. My phone kept recording and I prayed it caught anything useful. I slid one step closer to the wall again, slow and careful. Then Kyle's voice spiked like someone pushed him. Stop stressing. Kyle's tone turned impatient. You sign, I file, we walk. Paper rustled again. My spouse muttered, "If she finds out, I'm dead." Kyle laughed once, and that laugh made me see him differently. I felt heat rush up my neck, raw and humiliating. Not because of sex, but because they talked about me like a tool. I clenched my jaw so hard my teeth ached. That's when I heard the word notary and my skin prickled. The glass door swung open and I jolted back. Kyle walked out first, stuffing something into his jacket. My spouse followed, eyes darting around like he expected me. I turned my head too late and Kyle's gaze caught mine. He stared at me for half a second, then smiled. Not a friendly smile, a warning smile. He lifted his hand and gave a small wave like wee-wee. "Ray buddies." I waved back without thinking and felt sick doing it. Kyle leaned close to my spouse, whispering fast. My spouse's head snapped toward my direction, hard and sudden. I dropped my eyes to my phone and started walking. I walked because running would have been a confession. I cut into a nearby store and pretended to browse. My phone vibrated in my hand, still recording their last steps. I heard their car start outside, then tires on pavement. I waited until the sound faded, then I almost collapsed. I stopped the recording and looked at the file name. My finger hovered over play, then froze. Because if I listened and it was real, everything changed. And I already knew it was real, did I? I slammed my laptop open and pulled up our bank portal. My fingers moved fast, like speed could stop damage. 2 cash withdrawals popped up with a location tag. Both sat near that warehouse strip and my throat tightened. I clicked into the transaction details and zoomed in. The times matched the moment I watched them split. I tried to talk myself down and I failed. Because it lined up too clean, like a script. I opened our credit card activity and scrolled hard. A charge sat there that I did not recognize. Not huge, not tiny, the exact kind that slides by. I stared at it until my eyes burned, then refreshed again. Another page loaded and a new alert flashed. New account inquiry, my name was on it. I didn't even breathe for a second. Then my hands started shaking and I hated that too. I clicked the alert email and the message was gone. Trash folder empty. My pulse jumped because I do not delete my own alerts. So someone else did, and we both know who. I marched to the bedroom and yanked open his nightstand drawer. I'm not proud of it, but I did it anyway. I found a folded letter with a logo I didn't recognize. I unfolded it and my hands turned clumsy. The letter had a reference number and my full name. It thanked me for applying like I invited this. It asked for verification like I was the problem. I stared at the last line and my mouth went numb. I checked the closet next because panic makes you search stupid places. Behind a stack of shirts, I found a slim folder. No big stash, just one thing like he trusted hiding. I opened it and my stomach flipped. There were printed forms with blank spaces filled in. My name appeared again, clean and confident. The signature at the bottom looked like mine almost. Almost is the word that ruins your whole day. I dropped the papers on the bed and backed away. I wanted to laugh because it felt unreal. Nothing came out, so I just stood there. Then I heard the shower shut off and time snapped back. I shoved everything where I found it, messy and fast. My hands fumbled the folder and I nearly tore a page. I hated myself for rushing, yet I kept rushing. Footsteps hit the hallway and I swallowed my fear. He walked in, towel around his waist, humming. That normal sound made me furious. He reached for his dresser and I stepped in front of him. My heart kicked hard because I was done playing quiet. "What is this?" I held up the letter, arm stiff. His face shifted for half a second, then settled. He blinked once like he was calculating. Then he smiled, and the smile was wrong. "Where did you get that?" His voice stayed soft. He took a small step closer, palm out. I pulled it back and kept my eyes on his. He froze again, and that freeze was the real answer. "Don't do that." His tone sharpened, then smoothed. "Do what?" I heard my voice crack and I hated it. He exhaled through his nose like I was dramatic. That little exhale made my anger flare up. I saw the forms. I pointed at the bed. His gaze flicked there, then snapped away. He rubbed his forehead like a man with a headache. That gesture nearly fooled me, nearly. "It's not what you think." He reached again. I flinched, which made him pause mid-step. My body reacted before my pride could catch up. And I saw that and I felt ashamed. Then tell me what it is, I held the letter higher. He stared at it like it could burn him. His throat moved once like swallowing a lie. Then he looked at the door like he wanted to run. He tried to take my phone off the dresser. I blocked his hand with my forearm. We both froze there inches apart. And his eyes went flat like the mask slipped. Why are you doing this? His voice dropped low. I laughed once, sharp and bitter, and it sounded ugly. Why am I doing this? I shook the letter. Why is my name on this? My hands shook harder. He held up both palms, slow and staged. Okay, he nodded like he was calming a child. Okay, he said it twice like repetition makes truth. I wanted to slap the word out of his mouth. Kyle is in trouble, the name slid out fast. I watched his face as he said it, looking for cracks. His eyes darted away, then came back too steady. That made me think Kyle was not the only trouble. You used my name for Kyle, the words tasted sour. He winced like the sentence hurt him. He took a step forward and softened his shoulders. That move was meant to pull me in, and it almost worked. I was going to fix it. He reached for my wrist. I jerked away and his hand grabbed air. His jaw tightened and I saw anger flash. He hit it fast, but I saw it and I remembered it. Fix it how? I asked, voice thin. He opened his mouth, then shut it. That pause told me the plan was not clean. And suddenly the cheating idea felt almost comforting. My phone buzzed on the dresser, screen lighting up. A new credit alert, fresh and loud. He glanced at it, then lunged for it. I snatched it first and my heart punched my ribs. Give me that, his voice snapped, no softness left. I backed toward the door, phone tight in my fist. He stepped closer, faster now. His eyes locked on the phone, not on me. I held the screen up, forcing him to see it. Explain this, my voice shook, but I kept it loud. His face went pale, then hard. And I knew the next seconds mattered more than everything before. He raised his hands again, slower this time. Listen, he took a careful step like approaching a cornered animal. I backed up again, heel catching on the rug edge. He noticed and his gaze flickered, calculating. I straightened fast and pointed at the front door. Stay there, my voice came out fierce, surprising even me. He stopped, then nodded like he agreed. But his eyes kept tracking my phone like a target. I opened the Notes app and started typing. Dates, amounts, the notary place, the warehouse strip. I typed like my life depended on it, because it did. He watched my thumbs move and his breathing changed. Are you writing this down? A forced laugh escaped him. I didn't answer because answering gives them control. He took another step, testing me. I lifted the phone like I might dial and he froze. He tried a softer voice again, quick pivot. We can talk, he spread his fingers, pleading. I stared at him and felt something inside me turn cold. Because he wasn't scared of losing me, he was scared of being caught. My phone buzzed again and I almost dropped it. The alert banner showed a different lender name. 2 alerts in minutes. I looked at him and my stomach sank like a stone. Did you do this today? I asked, barely breathing. He didn't answer right away, which was its own answer. His eyes narrowed just slightly, like he resented the question. And in that moment, I knew Kyle wasn't the main problem. I shoved my phone into my pocket and walked outside. He trailed me, bare feet slapping the floor behind. Don't leave like this, his voice chased my back. I kept moving anyway because stopping meant bargaining. I got into my car and locked the doors fast. He yanked the handle once, then twice, then stopped. His face pressed close to the window, eyes hard. That look told me the calm was fake and it was gone. I called the bank before my hands could talk me down. The automated voice asked questions I could barely answer. I kept my voice steady even when it cracked. When the agent picked up, I went straight for the kill. I need a fraud hold, the words came out blunt. The agent asked for verification and I rattled it off. My spouse paced outside, palms up like a show. I stared past him and kept talking because fear loves distraction. The agent flagged our accounts and read back new restrictions. I wrote down the case number on my arm with a pen. I asked for recent activity, then asked again, slower. When she confirmed the cash pulls, my throat went tight and stayed tight. I called the credit bureaus next, one after another. I froze my credit with shaking fingers and a flat voice. Every site asked security questions and I hated the irony. I answered them anyway because the clock did not care. A fresh alert hit while I was still on hold. Another inquiry, another lender name I never heard before. I whispered no like that could stop it. Then I realized they were still trying right now. I opened my email and searched keywords like a maniac. I found a confirmation notice from a mortgage portal. The message had my name and an application number. My hands went numb because that was the house. I called the lender on the email and demanded a supervisor. I used my full legal name like a weapon. I asked if a document was submitted today. The pause on the other end felt like a verdict, so I pressed harder. Yes, the supervisor's voice turned cautious and clipped. He mentioned a signed authorization and a notary stamp. I asked where it was notarized and he gave an address. It matched the place from yesterday and my vision narrowed. I drove there on pure anger and bad decisions. I didn't go inside, I didn't want a scene. I took photos of the sign and the suite number. Then I sat in my car and shook because I needed a plan. I called a "You're from the parking lot" and begged for a slot. My voice sounded calm, which felt like a lie. The receptionist asked if I was safe at home. I lied again and said yes because I was not ready to admit it. I went back home and grabbed my laptop like it was armor. I pulled the recording from my phone and backed it up twice. I saved screenshots of every alert and every transaction. I emailed it all to myself because evidence disappears fast. Inside the house, he waited near the kitchen like a guard. He lifted his hands, trying to look gentle. "Let's talk," his smile twitched like a muscle spasm. I didn't answer because words were his playground. He stepped closer and lowered his voice. "Kyle is desperate," he swallowed, eyes shining on command. "He needed help," he paused, then added, "I needed you to trust me." That last line hit wrong because it wasn't about trust. "You used my identity," I kept my tone flat. He flinched and spread his hands wider like that fixed it. I was going to pay it back, his eyes flicked to my pocket. He wanted my phone and that made my skin crawl. I backed toward the hall and kept distance between us. He followed, matching my steps like a dance. "You're overreacting," his mouth said it, his eyes didn't. Then he reached for my wrist again and I snapped. "Do not touch me," the words came out sharp and ugly. He stopped mid-motion, then forced a laugh. "Okay, okay," his hands floated up like surrender. But his jaw clenched and I saw the resentment. I walked into the bedroom and shut the door. Not a dramatic slam, just a firm click. I locked it, then sat on the floor with my laptop. My breath came fast because I knew he might pick the lock. I called the lawyer again and asked what to do next. She told me to file a police report and keep records. Hearing that out loud made everything feel real. I stared at the wall because police meant my life was broken. I opened the door and walked past him toward the front. He moved to block me, shoulder turning sideways. "Where are you going?" His voice cut sharp through the hallway. I kept my keys visible because I wanted him to see them. "To make a report," my voice stayed steady. His face changed fast like panic dropped the mask. "No," he stepped forward, hand out, then stopped himself. That hesitation told me he knew it was a crime, not a mistake. He tried a new angle, softer and urgent. "Give me one day," he pressed his palms together like prayer. "I can fix everything." His eyes darted toward the door. He was thinking escape routes and I felt it. "Fix it how?" I asked, not raising my voice. He opened his mouth, then shut it again. The silence was the truth he refused to say. I nodded once because I finally understood him. I walked outside and he followed to the porch. His hand grabbed my sleeve, not hard but claiming. I pulled free and his fingers lingered in the air. That tiny grab told me more than any confession, and I was done. My phone buzzed with a new text from Kyle. "Tell him to calm down, no greeting, no shame." I stared at it, then took a screenshot. Kyle knew I was involved now and he did not care. I drove straight to the station and did not look back. I told the officer the story in broken pieces. I handed over screenshots and read out dates like a robot. When he asked if I feared retaliation, my voice caught because I did. After the report, I sat in my car and called my bank again. I asked for a new account number and a new card. I asked how to lock the home equity line down. The agent put me on hold, and my hands would not stop trembling. My spouse called 8 times while I waited. I let it ring, then I turned the phone off. That choice felt cruel for 1 second. Then it felt like air, and I took a full breath. I went home with a friend and a plan. I packed essentials fast and left everything else behind. He stood in the doorway watching, face stiff and quiet. I walked past him without a word, and he whispered my name like a threat.